Hey, they say I'm making comics or whatever Big X the Plug said in his song. So, we're gonna start making this comic. We're gonna start on the cover, and I use Kablam Comics, which it turns out they're actually out of Orlando, so not too bad of a drive if I actually wanted to go pick them up in person, but it gives you everything you need to stay within the lines right there. We're gonna cut it out though, so we're gonna actually have our own little template to use going forward. This is the cover, so we're gonna have to make it bigger, but I'll start here to begin with and see what I'm working with. Right off the bat, we're gonna have to save this thing, so as we're saving these files, because I do a lot of Control S just to quick key it, we're gonna title it. I have a folder set up, so I've been going through some titles, and I think I've already said it, but I'm gonna call this comic book Lost Fuckers, and I think it's like a nice, ridiculous kind of title to better explain the comic. Really, I was gonna go with The Terrible Two, and I might use that as like a subtitle, like almost like a chapter name, but I thought that was a pretty good story to go with. It's actually from another comic that I was going to start almost in about what's that movie by Rob Zombie where he made with Danny Trejo and Diamond Dallas Page, and I forgot what he called him, but I wanted to do something similar because he was supposed to make a movie about them as bounty hunters, but then just didn't. And I was like, well, if he doesn't, then I will, right? And so I started to do it, but then the characters I designed were space bounty hunters, or undead kind of looking too, and it was a little bit too cringy and cliche for me to, so I essentially just kept that in my back pocket all these years, essentially since that movie came out. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just I'm gonna just steal that title and give it back to myself and use it for this thing. That said, and in terms of this comic book, I'm just gonna regurgitate what I've been talking about with my friends, but this book, I'm aiming for a wild, fun, cool, scary if I can. Horror is as great as it is as a medium, because if it's successful, then it's it's one of those things where because it works, it's successful, right? So if it scares you, it did its job. It's the most honest of, I keep saying of mediums, but I mean of genres. I've said this before about movies where you can make a romance movie, but it's are people actually going to feel it, right? You can make a comedy, and yeah, maybe somebody laughs or whatever, but for the most part, is it really funny? Horror is one of the only things where if it scares you, it's really going to scare you if it's successful, as we're saying. So if it works, it sticks with you, right? So take Scream, for example. A lot of people were kind of scared to get that call, or The Ring, or movies of that nature where can you make it stick with people? And so if I can do it, because it's kind of a war comic, so I don't know if I'll be able to pull it off. Maybe I can create some creepy designs, but will it stick with people? Probably not. We're going to try. And that comes down to scenes. I believe there's a graphic novel by the Japanese guy, Junji Ito. I think I'm probably wrong. It's right off the top of my head, so it's probably really bad. But I think that's the guy, and he's made a bunch of creepy, just gross comic books that stick with you. The snail one is one that pops in my head, and mainly for that, what got me was that the bully who kind of essentially got off on that feeling of bullying somebody actually becomes his victim's lover as a snail, and it's so gross. There's so many levels of just shame and just eerie um, just uncomfortable feeling. I think that's what they did with that Dracula movie that came out, where it was like a cuckold story, and that's how they got their gross horror movie feeling out of it, is making people feel sick to their stomach. Can I achieve that with this story? I'm not sure. I can try to come up with ways, but that's the other part of creating this comic in general, is it's like Old Man. I started describing it as all gas no brakes, so I'm kind of going for that. I also told my buddy I almost want it to play out like a video game level. That's what we're aiming for with this particular comic book. Right off the top of my head, at least, that's what I'm aiming for. You see, with the design, and if I was a smarter man, I would actually go off that video game analogy and really sell the Contra Double Dragon kind of look, right? Because the design, to my disdain, because as I'm doing this, I'm like, why didn't I just redraw this from scratch, or like come up with a different idea? But there's a little bit of nostalgia in this drawing. This drawing came out, I just had the video and I lost it because I had the date on it, but it came out like over 10 years ago or something like that. And it was like my first YouTube video, so I was like, why not? Like, it's too perfect to miss out on updating this and making it look cool, and just helping it be more a part of me and my process and my journey on this art thing, right? Because I have the back-to-back Double Dragon Contra, like I was saying, look, right? And we're going to render this whole thing. So that was my initial idea of this. And really, what I'm going to get into in the long run is making this armor make sense. And I take a few liberties here in a couple minutes or seconds, but I was like, I don't want that diamond shape anymore. I kind of want to make it, I'm going to simplify all this essentially. That is one thing I have to either outsource or just do a good job of coming up with, is the title, the font of it. Right here, I'm just putting a placeholder because I didn't want to have the cussing on the main page just like glaring over. So I'll put the little placeholder there, and then we'll figure that out. So I was gonna have that, and then, like I was saying, the Terrible 2 is like kind of like the chapter, like the header of the actual comic book. So we're gonna single this guy out and work on Judd first. And what we're doing is making a skeleton of his armor. We're gonna have to simplify all this stuff, and that's the golden rule: belts, buckles equals badassness. I'm doing a lot of little notes, if you can catch them. I got kind of excited doing this because we got the turret gun arm coming up, so we're gonna fill this with a lot of cool stuff, and you're gonna see a lot of nods to media that I like Resident Evil, and what else we got, like Halo. I do a lot of armor studies from especially concept art. I like all that stuff. I got a bunch of reference just on my phone that I look at too, to kind of keep this, or get this armor looking right. This is an old picture, like I've been saying, so there is a lot of fixing I need to do. Even watching this, just that chest plate I need to redo, which I'm gonna do now, because I'm taking this video in chunks, and I'm working on it like that instead of overloading my computer. That way, like, it forces me to take breaks as well. This cover is gonna probably be my most ambitious video to date, which I'm a bit proud of. I feel like I'm ramping up to something, and this is just a piece of that, which is a good thing. I can already tell that I'm going to have to make some maps of this character armor. And what I mean by that is I'll have to do a front view of fully fleshed out armor, clear and concise, a side view, and a back view. And what that's going to help me do is when I get into certain angles and positions that the character is in throughout the comic book, I'll be able to take those maps, duplicate them, and kind of just put placeholders as a way to warp and then re-detail, re-render the image, and it'll save me a ton of time because we're sticking to our guns here, like I was saying, with designing and biting off more than we can chew in order to make something I think is going to be amazing. And you know what that reminds me of is the hard-boiled comic books by like Frank Miller, and there's a couple artists. They did the Astro Boy, or I forget the other title, but it was really highly detailed to where they would show the little shards of glass. And I love that stuff. That's one thing I'll do with comics as well, is I'll go through a lot of things that have inspired me. And I actually looked it up. One of the books I was talking about is it's called The Shaolin Cowboy by Geoff Darrow. And not only is it like super highly detailed, but it's also the sequentials. It's one of my go-tos of seeing and getting inspiration for projects I'm doing. It's a little bit like the line work is completely different, and mine's a lot more messy. I wouldn't say painterly, but kind of has that more blotched in mixture between colors and values. But if you ever get the chance, it's definitely something I'd recommend. I also have a couple mangas that I go through. One of my favorite mangas that I read is not read, but just go through, because I got one of the originals, so it's like in Japanese, but it's he made the Biomega series, and then he has one called Blame. The one I have at my side right here is called Abara. It's really good. I was just looking through it, just daydreaming really about stuff I could do, and it's another one where the sequentials, it's black and white mostly, but it's just the action in it. I really want to try to convey that type of action, and I'll mix it between all these styles. What else do I like? I like the work of Frank Whiteley, especially his covers. That's one I kind of go back and forth with. He had the last one I read from him was like, what is Jupiter's what's it called? Just Jupiter. They made it like a TV series of it for a little bit, but it didn't really pan out. But the artwork in it was amazing. I have a few more I gotta think of, but that I always go that I go with. I'm a Jay Lee fan too, so he's not everybody's cup of tea, but I actually like his work. I followed him from his early days. I had a bunch of comics that were just dropped in my lap, and it was like Hellstorm or Hellfire or something like that he had. It was like his own creator made work, and I feel like I grew up on him, so I'll always kind of have that special place in my heart for his work. And I just really like his work, especially what it developed into, just that clean kind of look. I've tried to do my own version of that here and there. And I think there will be a time and place where I try to mimic some of these artists' work over time, just to see what I can get out of a project. Because I think I work like that in a way as well, where all these stories that you come up with, these comic books and ideas, you don't always want to do the same exact style. It's like making music. Not that I know how to make any music, but every album is not going to be the same. It's not going to sound the same. There's going to be different instruments, or just different ways of singing, and so on and so forth. And I kind of at some point want to do that with my art. I know I have a book called Snake Face my buddy reminded me about that I want to do eventually, and that's going to be probably my next different style when I actually finally get to it. But I had always planned on doing that book in watercolor anyway, so that's about it for plans on using different styles, but this one, I've been using it for Old Man, The God Project. I have a few, the stories, they all come from the same universe. In the drawing, I'm trying to add a lot of the small details and make things a little bit cooler. I'm trying to put in more straps, and in the back of my head I'm also staring at the design and wondering if it's gonna work, right? That's one thing that I've been kind of dreading, having to pull it all together, and if it's exactly what I want, because of the pre-existing image. I do some details inside this, and I'm trying to put in some really cool imagery, but it all takes time. I've been realizing this video in particular is gonna kind of take a while, so I'm gonna have to cut this thing up into different pieces, which isn't a bad thing. The whole point of this channel, my whole YouTube channel, is to establish a series of just me going throughout projects, because from what I like from my favorite artists is they work on a certain thing and they're telling you how to do things because they're just better at it than I am. But this is more or less my artistic journey at the same time. So it's like, hey, let's go draw this thing, and this is what I want to work at, and let's solve this problem, and this is how we're gonna do it. And that's kind of how I think my approach is gonna be, or that's what I feel like the best approach for me to do is, because I'm never gonna be able to sit here and be like, do it like this, you know. Like, this is just my way of doing it, and I hope it helps, but I don't think I could ever be a teacher, to be honest. Plus my stuff's probably all wrong. Not probably, it's all wrong. But I'm trying my best. You could see right there, actually, on his ribs, I wanted to add kind of a Resident Evil Nemesis nod. In the new design, he has like these caution wrap looking tubes, and I really wanted to capture that, and other characters from over the years of my favorites and what's made me the artist that I am today, or just whatever I like in general, from horror movies to comic books and video games. One of the movies I actually really like that I would completely redesign was, I only like the first one. I haven't seen the other ones, but it's Jeepers Creepers. I think I would have a field day redesigning that guy. And fun fact, they filmed a big portion of that movie in Ocala, which is, I was working out there like week in, week out for a good while, so it's a small world, right? I think I'm gonna cut the video here, so I got a little over 3 hours into this thing, and it's gonna take me a good while before I get just this character done. And then not to mention the other one, although the other one doesn't have as much surface area, so I also still have to add color. And for the background, I'm thinking about just going flat red, so we'll see. And I might even do like a barely visible image in the background as well, just to kind of give it some depth. But as always, thank you for watching, and hope I get to see you on the next one. We'll be working on Ron in the next video, or actually finishing up this guy, and we'll talk more comic books.